Hey, what's up, guys? This is a Patreon video request, and the request is to go over Wave's H delay. Now, H delay has kind of become the soup of the day, kind of the delay that everyone seems to be using now. And that's good because it's pretty cool. And what makes Wave's H delay cool is that it's a mixture between digital and analog tape delay. So there's a mixture between those two, and that's why it's called H delay. It's a hybrid delay, like a hybrid between digital and analog, and it sounds pretty neat. So I have my groove here, which I'll play with the plugin disabled, and here it is. All right, we're gonna be focusing on this part right here, which is like my stab sort of thing. I'm gonna turn it on, and you'll notice that it sounds like this in context with the rest of the track. Which it sounds like that because Waves expects you to use these sort of things in a send and return on a send track or like some sort of bus or something. So it's set to 100% wet. So here's our first knob that's really important is our dry wet knob. This will give you control over the mixture of the dry and wet signal. And typically, I guess I would start maybe around here, which would be like 10 o'clock, which gives you a nice mixture of the dry and wet. Wet being the delayed sound that kind of goes along. So we're going to start out with the important knobs, and you can really tell what the important knobs are by the size of them. And you have your delay and your feedback. So delay dictates the basically it's you can have a bunch of modes, but the delay is the delay time. So imagine a tape loop that's constantly kind of going. There's one play head. No, there's one record head recording the signal, and then somewhere down the line, depending on the speed, there is a playhead. So there's recording and then playing, and that's basically how a tape delay works. It's you record and play on this closed loop, very short tape, and you adjust the tape speed with this thing here. Usually you'd have it in milliseconds. You wouldn't be able to get absolute control, but you can sync this to your host, which gives you a bunch of flexibility. So let's go sixteenths. So the delay will appear every 16th, and this is a good place to start, especially for house and stuff like that. 16ths is pretty good, and it doesn't busy up the mix that much. You can go eighth for a different like techno house. It's all about the feel that you're going for. That's really important. You'll notice that there's T's and there's D's on the 16th. These are basically subdivisions. That's called dotted and triplets, and it's kind of it. I'm gonna get into that in another video. It's just a division of your it's a division of the 16th. So kind of dotted is a little bit slower. And you can go triplet, which is it's like a triplet, right? And that's pretty cool. So one really neat thing about Waves H delay, and one of the reasons why people use it, is we have control over, you can match it to your BPM. But if you switch to milliseconds, unlike other plugins, it will automatically do the math for you, and it'll say, okay, so a 16th at 126 BPM is 119 milliseconds. If we go over to an eighth and we go over to milliseconds, it's 238. So that is exceptionally useful, and it gives you the flexibility to not have the delay like directly synced on time. And a lot of the old school, and what makes certain delays sound cool is they're not perfectly on time, because if everything's like syncopated and like perfectly on the grid and whatnot, it doesn't sound cool. So that's still, an eighth, but it's 238 milliseconds. And yeah, it automatically does the math for you. It's a really cool feature. So from there, we can change this to 37, 36. And it's subtle, but it gives you that analog delay sort of feel. Okay, so that's host and BPM. You can punch in your own BPM, and this is just a different way of going about it. So say in an instance you're in the analog world, you have your delay set to 130, your track set to 130, but then you slow down your track with all your MIDI outs, and it's playing at 126, and it sounds like that, which people did back then. They forgot to set the BPM. You had a cool sound just because the BPMs are off, and that adds to the delay sounding cool. Anyway, so we're just gonna leave it on host for now. Let's go 16th. 16ths are like my favorite division of a delay, right? So we have some cool stuff up here, which when you hear it, right, you hear the dry signal and then you hear the delay line. We can actually set it so that it goes ping pong, so it goes left, right, left, right, left, right at 16ths, and this sounds exceptionally cool. It sounds vastly more interesting. And with this delay, we can play around with the stereo field and still do all the cool stuff with milliseconds and all that fun stuff. Really neat. Right, so we have our left and our right. This is basically inverting the phase of the left and then the right. I'm not sure. Maybe someone in the comments knows where this would be useful to. I think it would be kind of maybe useful at very short delay times, doing some weird stuff with the stereo image or emulating some sort of something, or if you're having issues and phasing issues with the left and right at certain delay lines. I don't know. Typically, I wouldn't do this because what it does is it causes a bit of cancellation. I guess it makes it sound from the 50, or I don't even know. It's like a weird stereo effect if you listen to it. So yeah, the left waveform is inverted, and that might be an emulation of a certain type of tape delay. I don't know. So anyway, on to the other big knob, and this is the feedback knob. This will dictate how many times the signal will basically echo and how long the delay line is. So for this example, I'm going to turn the wet all the way to 100%. Right? So it does its delay thing, and it basically ends right around here. But if I increase the feedback, you'll get more delayness. You can really hear it. Right? So kind of shorter. Longer. Right? And we can actually increase the feedback so much that it emulates a what's it called? Oh my god. My mind is going blank on this one. It's basically like a really long delay line that just goes on forever, basically. So you hit it all the way to that. What we're getting is the noise. So I'll turn off the analog part, but we'll get back to that a little bit later. Right? So we have basically this delay line going on forever. You can do all sorts of cool stuff with this, but basically it's emulating tape delay. All right, so let's put the feedback down. I'm not quite sure why it was giving us noise. See how it's feedbacking? It's still kind of there, which is interesting to me. I guess it remembers. All right, and that gets to our analog, which we'll get into. Okay, so there's our feedback. I'm gonna set this back to like 10 o'clock, which is a good starting point for you. I set this back to eighths. Nope, 16ths, sorry. Give it a bit more feedback to taste. Typically, you wouldn't want the feedback to continue going, you know, and fill up the mix. It doesn't quite sound nice. We're gonna do that. So here we have modulation, and this modulates, imagine the tape spinning around. This modulates the speed up and the slow down. And this is what those old tape delays did. They would kind of, you know, not be too like all machinery has like a warble, kind of warbles a little bit. It's called flutter or wow. And yeah, we have control of it here. There's no modulation. The depth is a modulation amount, and the rate is how fast it is. So if we do a rate of, yeah, let's just play around with it. So I'm going to increase the amount. I currently have it set to wet, so we hear nothing but the delayed signal. Right? It's modulating, and we can increase the rate a little bit. Right, and we can go bananas with the depth. Right, I usually don't play around with that, but hey, who knows? Okay, so from here, we're gonna go to the filters. Now, typically, this is always a good idea, is to low pass your reverb and effects, just so they don't make the high end a little bit too busy. So I'll increase the wet to 100%. So the wet reverb has effectively been low passed, and notice how it sounds. Sounds a bit more interesting, doesn't it? Right? You can effectively high pass it as well if you're worried about like low end accumulation or like something weird happening on the mid range. And here's a neat feature: you can actually control both of these at the same time, and like direct air traffic or whatever. Really, really cool. So from here, I'm just gonna briefly go over here. This is a tap, and this is, I guess you'd call how you would kind of tap in a delay, and it's dependent on what setting you have here, whether it's BPM host or millisecond. So if I'm tapping like this, if I close my eyes, I'm just like, I want the delay line to kind of be like this. It'd be a half a bar dotted. See what that sounds like? Right? Do, do, we. Yeah, anyway, you tap it in, and it will pick the closest division of your delay that you're closest to. If you have it set to milliseconds, it will it will match it to the closest millisecond you are. So this is a little bit more accurate. How fast can I click? Can I? 83. 83 is my record. What's your record? I don't know. Right? Or I can go really slow if I'm kind of grooving. I'm just like, I want to make something, but I want it to be like, yeah, right. So that's like, 533 milliseconds. And that sound, that's an interesting-ish delay. But then you have BPM, which you can. Oh, never mind. Scratch that. Thought you could tap in your BPM. I guess not. Anyway, so yeah, depending on your host, it will pick closest division millisecond. You'll tap it in, and it will figure out the millisecond you want. Anyway, there's that. Okay, God. So there's this guy right here, and this basically lets you know if you are redlining with the feedback and the delay type. It'll let you know if things are kind of going wrong. You really want to stay below 0. When that light goes on, it will stay on until you bring down the output. But I can boost the output and, kind of distort it a little bit. And I'll just bring that down. You click on it to reset it. Right? It's a fantastic delay. Analog. This kind of makes it emulates certain tape things. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know what this does. I haven't really been able to hear the difference between off 1, 2, 3, and 4. But yeah, and the manual is kind of very vague about this. I was trying to figure it out. So let's not worry about that. LoFi. LoFi emulates a digital delay. And what that means is the memory in these old digital delays that aren't tape, they didn't have a very high sample rate, right? So they wanted to pack as much information in. Say if you have like a 2-bar delay line, you want to have all that, but they didn't have the quality back then. So if I set this all the way to 100% wet so you can hear it, and I turn on LoFi, oh yeah, it's because I have the low pass on. You can hear the lo-fi-ness of the delay, and yeah, I guess it changes when you change the analog setting. I don't know, but anyway, that is Waves H delay, and that's basically how you go about using it. Anyway, hope you guys learn stuff. Take care and have a good one.